this was the first opportunity she's ever been given to answer questions about what happened. And so the truth will come out about what happened with Mr. Epstein, and she's the person who's answering those questions.
Ghislaine Maxwell's attorney this week after his client sat for her first ever DOJ interview amid renewed interest in getting evidence in the Epstein case released. As lawmakers on both sides of the aisle call for more transparency on the disgraced financiers, also a child sex offender. Let's bring in our legal panel. Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley and Ilya Shapiro, Manhattan Institute Senior Fellow and Director of Constitutional Studies. Welcome, gentlemen. All right, Jonathan, to that point about her never having this interview before, I was surprised, and you had dug and gotten some information on that.
Well, I was floored when the legal team said that she had not been interviewed by federal and state investigators. There were so many investigations over such a long period of time, but she appears to be untapped as to her account. Now, keep in mind, she's the one who knows the most. In every one of these pictures, she's in the background. And so the fact that she is untapped is remarkable. And I expect that there are lots of powerful husbands around the world right now spontaneously buying gifts for their wives because they don't know what's coming out next week.
Well, that's the thing. We don't know these 2 days of discussions with the DOJ what there was. ABC is reporting that she got proffer immunity. So what could ultimately happen here, Ilya, if she has information and people are going to say she's a convicted felon? How much of that can you trust?
That's exactly right. The DOJ officials are going to have to weigh how motivated she is versus what's actually there. There's also the grand jury transcripts. The judge in Florida denied the unsealing. Judge in New York may unseal. This could go to the Supreme Court.
Well, and speaking of that, I mean, Jonathan, she's got a filing her team does tomorrow related to her appeal there. We still don't know if the justices are going to hear it, but her case is very much still alive.
It is alive, and they're saying that she did not get the benefit of the deal that Epstein struck, and that subsumed her case as well. That is a get-out-of-free-jail card if they win. Now, it's a long shot, but it is by no means frivolous.
What do you make of all these subpoenas now? Because, you know, the speaker is getting heat saying, oh, he left Washington because he didn't want them to have any more votes on this Epstein stuff. But the committees have been busy. And so oversight, I mean, we're talking about not only, obviously, to Ghislaine Maxwell, maybe there'll be congressional testimony from her, but also other key players, the Clintons, former attorneys general like Barr, Sessions, Comey, Lynch, Gonzalez. I mean, there are a lot of people now who may be subjected to these subpoenas.
This is a mishandling by the administration. I mean, they should have released what could have been released initially rather than kind of having this continued drip. There might not ultimately be anything incriminating. Alan Dershowitz, criminal defense lawyer, said that there's no current political office holders are implicated. I don't know. I think it's an ongoing story, and different actors are trying to get to the bottom of it.
So trying to get to the bottom of something else, we have these releases from the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, pointing back to this 2020 memo that we're just now seeing. We're going to have more questions about that later in the show. But here's what the Federalist reports in digging through these. It says senior intelligence officials strenuously fought the demands of former FBI Director James Comey and other Obama intelligence chiefs to include in this intelligence assessment the false and unverified Steele dossier in an official assessment, quote, based solely on what we do know now. My bottom line is this: unless FBI is prepared to provide much better sourcing, I believe this should not be included in the paper, one official wrote, caps and all. And so the suggestion is that there was a change in the way the intelligence was handled, packaged. Certain things were left out, certain things were included. Why didn't we see this until 2020? I mean, why didn't we see it until now? It's 5 years later.
Yeah, Russia gate. Who knew it, and what did they know when? Even if it's not Obama directly implicated, and he, of course, has some immunity protections as well, this does not look good for the intelligence agencies under Obama. What were they advising him? Why did they say later that it went in, but then it turns out it didn't come in, and vice versa? There's some real fire there, not just the smoke.
And by the way, President Obama's office has said this is absolutely bizarre and ridiculous. They're completely denouncing any suggestion that there was a manipulation of intelligence to specifically gin something up against President Trump. But there are questions. So there are calls now for special counsel. Does it happen?
Well, I'm not sure about special counsel, but the thing to keep in mind is the timeline. It was earlier in 2016 that John Brennan briefed President Obama to say that Hillary Clinton was planning to hit Trump with a Russian collusion conspiracy theory. So he knew that. So did Obama. And then at the end of the term, right before Trump comes in, they rushed this new assessment, which essentially flipped the earlier assessment and seeded the basis for the Russian investigation. And it worked. But now you've great vulnerability for people like Brennan. What we learned last week does not seem to conform with what he said to Congress. And that's going to raise serious issues if he's called back before Congress, and they're going to ask him the same questions.
Because there may be a statute of limitations that's run on some of this stuff, and we'll talk later about, claims of treason. People, even who are not fans of President Obama, say that's outrageous. This does not fit that description. So we'll dig into that. But there's another investigation going on the Hill, and this involves former Biden officials. This week it was Ron Klain, former White House chief of staff up there. And by the way, our polling shows this. This week we asked, is it important for Congress and the DOJ to investigate Biden advisors on using the auto pen? Majority of the respondents said they do think, Ilya, this is a worthwhile investigation.
There's got to be something there. So many officials taking the Fifth Amendment, which is their right. Ron Klain did not do that. Testified for a long time. We don't know exactly what he said. But if there really is something that's being hidden there, they should grant immunity to one official, have them flip, and that would really put the heat on. But it really does seem like more likely than not, there's some malfeasance going on.
We do have a lot of other folks coming in, very high profile. Anita Dunn due in August 7th, Karine Jean-Pierre, former White House press secretary, September 12th, and Jeff Zients, September 18th. So, Jonathan, do any of them give us anything interesting or new?
Well, that's what's interesting about this week is that we actually had testimony, and it was not good for the president. Now, whether this is sort of weekend at Bernie's with Bernie's is a good question, but it does appear that there is legitimate basis to wonder who approved the signatures for many of these items. That's an important question for any democracy. All these people argue that we have to fight for democracy. What's more important than to make sure that the president is not a cutout for staff and that staff exercised his authority? You would think that members of Congress would line up and say, yeah, okay, let's get to the bottom of this.
And that could open up more broad investigations, because if he wasn't fully there for the pardons, what does that say about the rest of his governance?
Yeah, and we'll have to see about whether there's a challenge to the legitimacy of all those end-of-term actions that he took. Thank you, guys. We could do a full hour. We still have so many more stories, but we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.